Welcome to the fourth episode of Renewed and Redeemed. Today we will hear from Danielle, who, much like David in Psalms 139, discovered that there is no place you can go where God's presence is not near. We hope this episode blesses you.
Welcome to Renewed and Redeemed. Today I'm super excited because we have an extra special guest. And I know I say that all of my guests are special, but today this guest is extra special. It's someone that's known me longer than anyone else and that probably knows me better than anyone else. And I am so happy to have my sister Danielle on the show with us today. Welcome,
Hey,
Danielle.
hey, everybody.
A little bit about Danielle. I think that you would be hard-pressed to find anyone that could find a better mom than her. Everybody knows that she is just an amazing mom. She's the type of mom that I aspire to be, and she's just so wise and patient. And even though she's younger than me, I still go to her and ask for advice because she's just so amazing. And not only that, she is just strong and tenacious. She doesn't give up, and she just blows me away with all that she can do and accomplish, and just her positive attitude. So I'm just so happy to have my sister here today. So before we get started with everything else, is there a story that you want to share about us or me? And don't embarrass me too much, please, because I know some stuff about you too. So.
Oh, okay. Is that how this is going to go? All right, I see. So my favorite story of Crystal is there are many car stories I could tell you, but my favorite one was that she had, I don't know if she had just gotten her license, but she had just gotten a car that was a stick shift, and she was still learning to drive it well. And we went to the grocery store together, and as she was pulling into the parking spot, she didn't hold the clutch down properly, and so the car started to buck and stall, and she was too close to the car next to us. So as we were bucking and stalling, she was just kept hitting the car next to us over and over, and she was mortified, and I was dying laughing because it was.
Oh, and the person that was really nice because they came out and they didn't even get mad at me. I still to this day don't understand that. They must have been a follower of Jesus.
They were definitely went home and had a good laugh about it.
I'm sure. Oh no. Oh my goodness. That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess to get a little on the more serious side, what I was just wondering, and I think it's so interesting because I really don't know what you're going to answer for these questions, even though I know you so well. So I'm excited to hear what you're going to say. But what was your life like before you really met Jesus, like before you really knew him like you do now?
So honestly, I don't really remember a time before Jesus. I grew up knowing about him, memorizing his word.
Mm-hmm.
He was always a part of my life. I would say that I didn't really know Jesus until probably, I would say 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
I had never had a relationship with him the way that he desires to have a relationship with us.
Yeah.
And so honestly, I feel like I was reborn probably 5, 6 years ago. Growing up, I went to a Christian school, and I probably know every verse in the Bible is memorized in my head. I learned the books of the Bible, and it was all head knowledge, and I have a lot of it. It was just never heart knowledge. And
Yes.
I feel like, it was definitely, I wouldn't say forced upon us, but I just really feel like I never had never chose it for myself.
Right. Right.
And so, you know, I was a kid and a teenager, and I made a lot of stupid choices. Nothing like, I wouldn't say that I was like super rebellious, but I definitely made some choices on purpose in opposition to God and to you know, I don't know, I just didn't care. And
Right.
So I mean, yeah, like I said, I don't remember, I don't really know if I had a time before Jesus. I remember, you know, sitting with Mr. Gallagher, and when I was 4 years old and he was doing his ventriloquism, and I was like, you know, I want to accept Jesus. And I remember doing that.
Right.
I remember getting baptized at 12 years old, but it just never meant to me what it's supposed to mean.
I totally get it. I totally understand that. And yeah, I was thinking about Mr. Gallagher the other day myself. So
yeah, that's funny.
So what happened, you know, 5-6 years ago that really brought you to the knowledge of Jesus, knowing him and having a relationship with him like you do now?
So I mean, I think it goes back further than that, really, to get to that point.
Okay.
I got married young. I went to Christian college for a couple of years. I went and served on a mercy ship for, you know, a year or 6 months or however long it was. And I came home and got married at 21, and I jumped into a lot of things, and had kids early, and just decided, it wasn't a good match. My ex-husband and I were just, on very different pages, and I wouldn't say I ended up getting divorced, and through that divorce, I just turned my back on God, and I just ran away. Honestly, I felt I couldn't go to church. I felt like I was going to be judged. I felt like I was going to be shunned. And there's reasons that I mean, some of the divorce things were shared with friends that I had in the church. But there was a lot of things that I didn't share because I honestly didn't want to embarrass my ex-husband.
Right.
And I'm not a very open person. So honestly, me doing this podcast is a huge deal. I am not one to make myself vulnerable at all. So anyway, I turned my back and I stopped going to church. I stopped taking my kids to church. I had 3 girls at the time. Madeline was 5, Iris was 3, and Cora was 1. And I stopped going to church, and I just ended up meeting somebody else, and I got hooked up early. Within, you know, a year, we were living together and made very, very lots more poor choices. And I went through a lot emotionally and physically, and I all along knew that I needed to go back to God. I knew he was pulling me, and I know if it weren't for God, even though I wasn't paying attention to him, I knew he was paying attention to me, because if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here. I was physically and emotionally abused, and I know that it's because of him that I am here, and he kept me safe, even though I didn't care about him.
Right. His love is so good like that. You know, even he is faithful even when we aren't, and his love isn't dependent on our behavior. And you know, that just
he just never let me go.
Yes.
He said, I have bigger things for you, Danielle. This is not who you are. This is not what you're going to be. And I have bigger plans for you.
Yes.
And I'm not letting you go. And, so things got really bad, and, we ended up moving to, my husband, and we ended up getting married. My husband got a job transfer, and so we ended up moving to a new town, and I just said, now that we're in a new town, I'm going to find a church, and I'm going to take my kids to church.
Yeah.
And so we did. And I became very good friends with the pastor's wife, and she really reached out to me and just kind of kept her eye on me and encouraged me. And, so we started going to church I would say it was probably September. And then, in the spring sometime, I think it's in May, there's like 48 hours of prayer or something like that. Do you know what that is, Chris? Have you?
I kind of remember it, but I don't remember what it is. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So our church participated in this 48 hours of prayer, and everybody signed, not everybody, but you could sign up for like an hour of prayer time to go to the church and pray. And, Jenny, the pastor's wife, my friend, was going at like 3 a.m, and she said, "Danielle, why don't you come with me?" And I was like, I don't know about that.
Yep.
But for some odd reason, I said yes. And I went to I'm going to cry, but I went to the church that night, and she sat a few rows in front of me and prayed. And I sat in the row with a journal and a Bible, and I just started pouring my heart out to God. And I just came clean, and I just apologized for all the things I could think of and what I had done, what I hadn't done. And at the end of the hour, Jenny came over and just gave me a hug and said, let's pray together. And we prayed for a few minutes, and we went on our way.
Wow.
And I think it was 4 days later, maybe 5, everything hit the fan.
Yeah.
And it was the final straw. And God just said, "This is it, Danielle. You've acknowledged me now, and now it's time to change." And, my oldest, Madeline, it was the night before her 13th birthday. And, she heard Rob and I yelling at each other, and she opened her bedroom door, and she saw him dragging me down the hallway by the back of my sweatshirt and pushing me down the stairs. And she started screaming for him to not touch her mother. And that, to me, that was it. I couldn't do it anymore. And that was really it. Everything just moved quickly after that. And I had no one to rely on except for God. And he just unfolded a huge plan in front of me and took care of every little detail, and just has provided for me. And that was 5 years ago. And
so powerful.
It is. He's so faithful. And like, I struggle with that now. Like thinking that I'm not being faithful enough, or like, am I acknowledging him enough, or am I doing this enough? Because I feel so grateful and so like indebted to him for what he's done and what he's provided for me.
Yes.
And, so yeah,
I love what you said. Like, he was waiting for you there in the midst of all your mess. But he loved you so much that he's like, "I love you, and yes, I'm forgiving you, and I'm going to help you, but you got to change." And that's something that, he loves us, but he's not going to leave us the way we were, because he knows that that's not who we were created to be. And he knew that you were created for so much more. And it's been really amazing to see that unfold in your life over the last, 5-6 years and continuing, and not just in you, but also in your daughters.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, not only did he save me, he saved my girls, and,
Right.
Their relationship with God is like, so I don't know. I'm just so grateful. It just makes me so happy that they have their own relationship with him,
Yes.
and
Yep.
they're teenagers and, what have you, but they genuinely are interested in getting to know, the Bible and what, just how they, as a teenager, can serve him and
Right.
be a good example to those around them. And, I just think about how, if I hadn't chosen to go to church, and the funny thing that I forgot to say is that my first Sunday at that church was actually that pastor and his wife. That was their first Sunday at the church.
Yeah.
They
so
had
cool.
just been hired at the church, and God brought them there. I really feel like God brought them there for me.
Yeah.
Maybe that's,
I don't doubt that. No, I don't doubt that at all. He's like that.
Yeah. I really feel like he brought them there for me. And
that's so good. He is so good. He had all that planned out, just like even before you were born, to think about that.
Yes.
So amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah.
So now, you and your daughters are, going to church and serving him and being a light, walking with the Lord. Like, how has your life changed? How do you feel? What's different? And your girls too.
So, I mean, honestly, when Rob and I got divorced, Rob, provided financially very well for our family, and we were very stable, didn't have to worry about money or
Right.
places to live, or, he did that well. I will give him that. He did that well. And that was all taken away from us. And, I'm a single mother of 3 teenage girls and try to provide for them as normally as every other teenager around them and give them the same opportunities. And, so, I mean, it is a struggle, but I will say that, I just go to God, and I really, like, something will happen, or, I don't know, something will be provided for us. And the first thing we say is, that was God. Like,
right.
Because there's just no other explanation.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't know. It's weird because I don't really worry. I have a lot of stress, obviously, but I don't really feel like I worry. I really just have a calm sense of contentment.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He just takes, he just provides everything. It's
yes. You've seen that over and over again, and he's shown you that over and over again.
Over and over and over.
Yeah. So good. So good. So if you had like one lesson that you've learned in your life that you feel like you want to share with the world that you think could help somebody, what would that lesson be?
Well, I mean, I really feel like the number one, well, can I say 2 lessons?
Sure. Yeah. Because you're my sister, I'll do that.
Number 1 lesson is definitely, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, he's not away. You cannot run far enough away that he just won't be there. He's always there. Always.
Yes.
Whether you see him or acknowledge him or not, he's
right.
there. And he still has his hands in your life.
Yes.
And yes, he did let me make those awful choices that I made. And yes, I have to deal with the consequences of those choices, because he's not guaranteed to just make everything okay. Like, that's not what he does. But he says, I will never give you something that we can't handle.
Right.
It's not me. Like, God does give us stuff we can't handle, but
Right.
he doesn't give us stuff that he can't handle.
Yes. So good.
So I just, that is my like, motto in life is just that you can't go anywhere. You can't go far away. He's always there. And,
yes.
And someday you will acknowledge it.
Yes.
And whether it's here on this earth or whether it's after you pass, but one day you will acknowledge it.
Yes.
So.
Oh, that preaches. Good job. Wow. So was that one and two, or do we still have a second?
Oh, no,
second.
No.
Okay.
I forgot the second one. No, the second one is really, I have a really big heart and, for like the youth of today's generation, and my heart really just aches because I feel like we're not teaching our kids theology. We're teaching them, like head knowledge,
right.
and we're teaching them memorize these verses and everything will be okay, but they don't know how to apply those verses because we're not teaching them the theology behind those things. And so really my encouragement to parents is to not just encourage your kids to memorize the verses or sing the hymns or sing the praise songs. It's really about like the behind the scenes, like why and how are we going to apply that to today's society, and how we grew up, Crystal, and the things that we had to deal with, and the things that were applicable to our lives are very different than what the kids today are learning about,
Absolutely.
Are dealing with.
Right. Yeah, because we both know that memorizing verses doesn't do an ounce of good for you in your life if you don't actually have that word really like growing in your heart and experiencing it and showing it in your life. It does nothing for you.
Yep.
So no more than reading a science textbook. It's no different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
My daughter Iris, she was in a world history class, and they learned about different religions and stuff in there this year. And there was another girl in her class that was a Christian and was just like appalled that they were learning about Islam and that they were learning about Buddhism. And she was just like, why do I have to learn this? This is so like not, what she believes. And
right.
Just, because in order for us to reach those people, we need to know what they believe and why they believe it.
Absolutely.
And just learning about it doesn't mean that you're believing it.
Right. Unless your faith is so shallow that it would be shaken by just learning about something different than what you believe. I mean, that's kind of scary.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that provided Iris and I a lot of conversations about the difference between our religions and their religion. And, it was great conversation with my 15-year-old.
Yeah. And this is why you're a great mom, because you do stuff like that.
I try.
Yeah. Well, you do a good job. And I totally agree with you. And just having it, the things that they're learning through the word, applying it to their lives. And also something that I, just to kind of piggyback on that, I think that it's important to let them, learn to start making their own godly choices, like not just telling them exactly every single turn left or right to take. Like you can help them through those choices and say, okay, well, let's, find what God says about it in his word, and have them dig in themselves and come and talk to you about it and kind of talk through those choices with them, so that when they go out on their own, they know how to make those choices and they don't need somebody else just to tell them what to do all the time.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, that was so good. So, I'm going to close out in prayer, and I'm going to pray just for people parenting, especially teens, and also for, how would I word that? Do you have a summary of the first one, how I would pray for that?
just that if you've been, running, to just turn and acknowledge.
Yeah.
And
right. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. See, this is what I'm talking about. She's so wise. I always come to her for advice. So, God, I thank you that you are so good, God. You're so good. And that there's no place that we can go where you aren't. And there's no place that we can run that's too far away from you, that you are there with us and that you are calling us to back to you, no matter how bad we've messed up or whether we acknowledge you or not, that you are just waiting there with open arms and just waiting to forgive us and love us, and still at the same time create change within us to be the people that you've created us to be, and to be in peace and to share your love with the world. And I ask that you just bless all the parents today and just give them your wisdom and how to raise their children in a godly way, especially the teenagers that are just this whole generation that's just dealing with so many new things and just so much pressure, and that you will just guide our hands and our decision making and just how we parent. I just thank you for Danielle and her 3 amazing daughters, and just bless them. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us on Renewed and Redeemed. If you have any questions, if you need prayer, or you want to give your life to God, please feel free to contact me at renew-redeem.com.